This is a Hot Pie Original.
Hi, and welcome to the Amy Edwards Show. Thank you for being here. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be sitting here looking at this camera, in this microphone, talking to you with this amazing support of Hot Pie Media. So excited that this is all rolling and that we're doing this. And today, we're lifting up the voice and the message and the purpose of Tim Corcoran. I am so excited for you to hear this conversation. It was so powerful. So Tim is a nature-based purpose discovery, I'm going to say master. He is incredibly attuned with nature and all that it can bring to our lives to help us find our own purpose, find our own value, and just make a better life and a better world for ourselves, our families, and it spills out into the world. I'm so stoked for you to hear this conversation. There's so much to it. If you want to learn more about Tim, I'll have it in our conversation. Links are provided in the notes, and it's at purposemountain.com. So stick around for that. And first, let's get to what's on my mind today. So yeah, I'm lighting a little Palo Santo. So I've talked about this. I do Instagram live meditations every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Central Time. And one of the things I've realized is like I light something every time. And I've brought it in here because like it helps me. And I'm like, why does it help me? Is it really clearing all the air? You know, they say, oh, it clears like the charged ions or particles. Maybe, I guess. I don't know. That's what they say. I guess there's science behind that. But I've realized that for me, senses are super important. And always like had a good nose and a good sense of smell. And they say smell is the strongest sense tied to memory also. So, you know, is that something we can use intentionally? And I like entering these podcasts and entering anything we do really with intention. And so I think this makes me more intentional because it triggers my mind through my sense of smell to, oh yeah, this is what we're doing now. We're getting intentional about it. Oh, I know this smell. This is what we do now, right? And not only that, it also helps me connect to my breath. And I think it makes us slow down. So like, I'm going to encourage you to light something. Are you lighting stuff? Are you lighting stuff on fire? Please do light up stuff on fire because I think it can really bring something to our lives, connect you with your breath, make you slow down a little bit. And especially coming in here and stuff, I can get a little like wound up, you know, like anytime you're going to work or you have a meeting or, you know, and here I'm talking on the mic, but more than that, a step further because now I'm on camera too. So I need to slow down, right? We need to tap into those times where we can connect with our breath and just slow it down just a little bit. So can you smell that over there, Colton? Yep. You can. Does it help you at all? Do you like it?
I like it.
You do?
Yeah.
You need a mic. That's it. We're getting you a mic. Next. Okay. So a couple things I want to talk about before we get into Tim Corcoran, which is so freaking amazing. I'm so excited to share this today. One, I wanted to say, get intentional, right? I'm really working to build this habit. I've done so many podcasts in the past where I wasn't intentional. And that is so 2020. That is so in the past. Like now, let's get into our intentional space. And I love that. Even if the intention is just to like be here, fuck it. That's a great intention. If it's to lift voices, which I'm trying to stay in tune with that being like a bigger intention for me all the time, lifting voices. And so I'm stoked to lift his today. But two things that I wanted to talk about right now is talking to Tim about our purpose. I know that I have done this, and so many times we can get caught up in our day-to-day and think that we have to do this or that or create time or create, have a certain setting or whatever it is, or certain medicine, plant medicine, drugs, psychedelics, whatever it is. You think I've got to have all this stuff to have the experience, the quote unquote experience that I need to have. But you have two things at your fingertips that are always there and that Tim and I talk about one today, which is nature. The other one is your breath work. So leading up to the soul wander, I've talked about this in previous episodes, so check them back if you haven't heard them, episode 1 and 2. I talked about this breathwork experience that I had, and they're like, it's as powerful as psychedelics. And I was like, yeah, sure, it is. And just today, after my meditation, I sat and did I'm doing like a modified Wim Hof breathing. So I breathe in and out really fast 30 times, and I practically hyperventilate myself. But dude, it makes you feel high. It is a trip. So you do that like 30 times. And now I just do it with my timer, and I listen to affirmations on the Think Up app. And I just breathe in and out really fast. And like, I feel like high. And then you just hold it for as long as you can. And I'm holding it about 2.5 minutes. And then you breathe out and then breathe back in for 15 seconds. And then repeat the whole thing. And I just kind of watch my timer and listen to those affirmations. And as I'm counting, I can't really listen to the affirmations and count at the same time, but they're seeping in. I'm hearing them even though I'm not conscious of it necessarily. So I just want to say, though, what I'm getting at is that we always have these tools. We always have the ability to tap into our breath, the ability to tap into nature, like Tim talks about today. Listen for that, because he talks about, even if you're in the city, what can you do? Even if you only have a few minutes, what can you do? And y'all know that really speaks to my soul, because I'm like, we got to do this like now. Let's do it right now and like execute it. So just remember that we've got things at our fingertips. We don't have to go on a 3-day fucking ayahuasca journey necessarily. Not that doesn't have a lot of value. Yes, it does. I'm not discounting that. But I'm just saying you don't have to. There are other avenues that are right there that are tools we have inherently. How fucking rad is that? Number 2 that I want to mention today before we get into Tim is, who are you all the time? Who are you all the time? And I talk about this like a lot, like on my social media and stuff. Difficulties will arise. So in the middle of the interview with Tim, Colton had a technical difficulty. I don't know if it was because it's a Zoom interview. So I don't know if it was like Zoom or our own technology here at Hot Pie or what, but there was some technical difficulty. And I saw him kind of stepping over here, and I had a moment when I was like, oh no, oh shit. And then I was like, focus back to Tim. Be in the moment and listen. This will be handled okay. And I think, I'm not 100% sure yet, but we might have lost Tim's answer to whatever it was we were talking about right at that moment. But you know what? I just had to embrace that is okay. And I had to sit when I could have got like frazzled. I could have got annoyed. It could have brought some weird ass energy to the interview. It could have done a lot of things, and you have that within your control. How are you going to handle your own technical difficulties when they crop up? And I just had that lesson, and I was like, how am I going to handle this? And I took a breath, and I stopped Tim at a moment when we could, and we had to sit and work out the difficulty. And it only took a couple minutes, but I decided to view it as a gift. And I was like, this is a gift. Maybe I needed to slow down right now. Maybe I needed to tap back in, drop back in with my intention. And so Colton was like, just 1 minute. And so I closed my eyes and I sat there and I reconnected to what I was doing in that moment. Maybe it's even like your intention, which mine was to really lift up what Tim had to say and to allow that moment to be a recentering for myself. And I also held in the back of my mind what we were talking about and just connecting a little bit to that and knowing that it was all going to be fine. And I also sent a little Reiki out to our electronics. I did channel a little Reiki energy to our electronics. So who knows, every bit helps, right? So the bigger picture was, though, like, who are we in those moments? Because we have those moments every single second. And Tim talks about this too. Like, in all those times, who are we being and what energy are we putting out? Is the vibe is it determining us, or are we determining it? Like, are we determining our own vibe? Are you standing strong? Are you creating your own vibration? And what is it you're creating, if so? And are you letting that dictate to you how you feel rather than the other way around? That's good shit, right? Okay. So I'm really, really, really excited to introduce you to Tim Corcoran. I met him in Sedona at the retreat that I was on, which I know I've talked about extensively. It was impactful to me. And this soul wander was extremely impactful to me. So I invited him on, and I am so grateful that he said yes. So please enjoy this. I encourage you to seek him out, look him up. It is at purposemountain.com or at twineagles.org. Okay. And we will have those links up. So you can just go to the notes and tap through and check him out. And again, it's Tim Corcoran. So thanks again to Tim. And then I will be back after the interview with a little wrap up, a little bit of like how we can implement something that he said, and just a few other thoughts after the interview. Enjoy. So I'm so excited to welcome you, Tim Corcoran. Thank you so much for joining today.
Yes, great to be here.
So great. So your mission is you help people find the courage to heed the calling from wild nature and their wild soul to live their vision and purpose here on earth. I mean, so beautiful. People can find you at purposemountain.com and twineagles.org, which I'm going to have links to those and share those at the end again. But back to your vision and your life's work. And I am speaking from experience because you, what you led in Sedona and the soul wander that I did with you has been fundamental into a change in me that I so needed that I didn't even know I needed. And you talk about an ecological awakening and what is dying, what is being born. And I felt that deep within my soul. And I'm sure you hear this so much from people, but I just want to say thank you, first of all. So
you're so welcome, Amy.
Thank you. And I just kind of wanted to start there that I think so many times we can discount stepping into nature and really connecting there and trusting that we are going to learn by getting quiet instead of like figuring it out ourselves. And I needed to be shown that. I worried that 5 hours was going to be a long time in nature for me, and it wasn't. So do you find that a lot? And let's just get into, how you started guiding people into this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so yes, we do find that a lot. Obviously, we live in our modern world that is very technologically oriented, that is very fast paced, that tends to value the human mind more than the heart or than the intuition. Nothing wrong with that, but there's more to us as human beings. And so connecting with nature helps us slow down and realize and come into connection with these greater capacities that are part of our human beingness, right? How I got started guiding. So I'm 46. I've been doing this professionally really my entire adult life. I followed the rules growing up as a kid. I grew up in the 80s in the Midwest in Indiana, a good-hearted, nice Midwestern boy. And, I faced my fair share of struggles as well as real blessings. I had a great family, but my parents got divorced when I was a teenager, had great friends, and yet I experienced some bullying. I kind of had all the different sides of the experience. And by the time I hit college and young adulthood, I realized, God, this American dream, so to speak, is really a pipe dream, that this is not all there is to who we are as human beings. I mean, I remember, Amy, being a little boy, being so fired up, so full of energy. I'm a dad now. My boys are like this, right? Where every day was an adventure and just full of the spirit of life. And I would look around at the adults around me and be like, what is going on here? Is this person alive? Are they a zombie? They all seemed like they were asleep, right? And I was like, is this what's awaiting me? No way. No way. So by the time I got out of college in my early 20s, I realized there was a different path for me than the mainstream one. And so I sought out the indigenous elders. I always had a dream as a kid to connect with the Native Americans, with the Indians. It was very romantic and very naive, and yet there was a deep calling in there as well, deep in my soul. And so I spent the early part of my 20s reaching out and making connections, which was a crazy thing to do. I moved out to Northeast Arizona on the Navajo Indian Reservation and connected with those folks, and ultimately found a network of wilderness schools who were teaching these old ways, some white folks, some Native Americans. And just like, these old skills, wilderness survival skills, animal tracking, medicinal edible plants, all of this stuff, plus the old ceremonial practices, the vision quest, things like soul wanders, sweat lodges. And it was a different cultural context, right? It was a very different experience than growing up in a conservative Midwestern town. I was finding myself in this whole world that was centered, where the culture was centered around nature and connection to spirit and really connecting to the heart. And so I feel really blessed that I was able to find a handful of traditional Native American elders and teachers to guide me, to mentor me. And that fundamentally transformed my life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in my early 20s, even I had pretty low self-esteem, honestly, a pretty low sense of self-worth. And I was able to heal all of that, right? I was able to transform that and really connect in with my deepest self. And at the deepest level, I was able to connect with my vision, right? This idea that every human life is not random. We are all here for a purpose, for a reason. And the great adventure of life is discovering what that is and going after it and then expressing that in the world. And that was through some of the old practices, right? The vision quest and other ceremonies. And that set me on this path that I've been on ever since. I mean, I've started a wilderness school. I do one-on-one work. I do group work. And it's all centered around helping people experience what I experienced, to feel in their bodies this deep connection to nature, to connect with their hearts, with their feelings, with their deepest soul, their deepest purpose, their vision, and come alive fully as a human being.
I feel like one of the things that you did to us when you first spoke, because I was new to it, I was in the new group, and one of the things that I'm hearing kind of now that maybe you do is you try to bridge that old way
Yes.
with, the way you were brought up and the way to ease people into it. Because
Yes.
I remember you saying everything is nature, like pay attention, everything is nature, and
Yeah.
it's hard to imagine that, our phones are nature and all that when we can get so spending so much energy there, and
Right.
out of touch. But you tend to encourage people, and I think it makes it more accessible. Is that kind of one of the ways that you do that?
Absolutely. I mean, that's really a huge part of my professional work, is acting as that bridge. I mean, I'm aware, here we are, it's 2021.
We're on Zoom. Yeah.
Right. We're on Zoom. Like, the world has never been so disconnected from the natural world. And so if there aren't people like myself acting as that bridge, then how are people ever going to make that connection? Right. I had people who did that for me. And that's, that's like the greatest joy that I have, is helping people. I mean, hearing your story of like, wow, how impactful it was and how it resulted in real transformation and new actions in your life. That's why I do what I do.
Tim, I was really worried. The night before, we'd done the breath work the day before, which I've talked about on these episodes. On episode 1 and 2, I talked about the breath work and the soul wander. And I was really scared of the soul wander. Like, I was like, I'm going to get lost. I'm not going to fucking know where I'm going, what I'm doing, how to get back. This is it. I'm going to die out there. And 5 hours in nature sounded like a really long time to me, which it was not at all. And it went by so fast, and I was so peaceful. And I think that, like you're saying, you as a bridge, it has to be accessible to people, because people like me can get really scared about it, and I was a little scared of nature, but you addressed, like you said, you studied tracking, and, you were like, if you see an animal, here's what to do. You made me feel really calm about it, and that I didn't need to be scared, and that I was going to find my way. And honestly, that was my huge takeaway, was that I can't do it wrong. You're going to find your way, and it's your way, it's your purpose. It's your way. And it was a massive shift in my life that I needed to learn. And I just think there's like this resistance, because we're in the city and we're in, trapped in Zoom world or whatever it is, staring at a screen. Right.
Yeah. Well, and listen, I mean, having fear of the natural world and a deeper connective process is entirely normal. It's entirely natural. It's something that everybody goes through.
Yeah.
And that's part of the empowerment, is that when we face our fears, we know this, right? As human beings, we come out the other side realizing, wow, I'm more capable than I previously thought.
Yeah.
And that influences our esteem, that influences our sense of self-worth. It influences how we perceive ourselves. And there's those classic kind of initiations that everyone has to face if they make this journey. The big five I always think about, Amy, are cold, wet, dark, alone, bugs. And it's so interesting, whether it's a 6-year-old, because I work with youth as well, or whether it's a 66-year-old, if a person hasn't faced those basic fears about wilderness and the natural world, they're going to come up.
Yeah.
And so, but in reality, how much more risky is it than driving down the highway at 75 miles an hour?
It's not. I know.
I mean, not at all. It's probably safer, right?
Right.
And so what is it? Life is about managing risk. So are there reasonable ways of managing that risk? Of course there are.
There are.
And
of course.
This is something that our ancestors have done for millennia.
It's in us. We were talking about technology and we experienced a technology difficulty. We might have lost a little bit of that last question, but that's okay. You were addressing too, though, that it is within our nature. These things are within our nature. And yes. In us, if we allow them out. I read this cool Alan Watts quote the other day, but it was about the essence of it was losing your consciousness of self. And I think we get so self-conscious and wrapped up in our heads and in our world. And we forget that we do have this natural ability from our ancestors and that we just have to tap into. I do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at human history on the planet, how long have humans lived this modern experience in the big picture?
Not long.
It's like 0.001% of our time has been this modern experience. And the rest of that time, we have been living close to the earth. So it's in our DNA, literally. And yes, I mean, the ego is great and the mind is great. But that's one way of living this life. That's one form of consciousness. And what our indigenous brothers and sisters remind us is that we can also live from our connection to the earth, be rooted in our place from the earth. And that in fact, that is a huge part of what it is to be human, right? Yeah. I mean, I think one of the biggest things I see with people is that, right? Like, so just like we can be displaced from our home and feel a sense of alienation, we can actually be displaced from the earth itself and from
our home,
soul.
like our whole home,
our bigger home, our deeper home. And so that knowing that, there's something more to my life. There's a bigger sense of belonging that I'm yearning for. And look at all the myriad of ways that we fill that void, right? I mean, oh my God, don't even get us started, right? Addictions and distractions and all the insanities of life. And yet we can never quite get enough of what we really don't need.
Right? We can never get enough of what we really don't need.
You like that one?
I do like that one because
all those
it's so true.
Will never fill the void. They just won't. And yet when people do what you did, when they spend time on the land, whether that's for a couple hours or a day or several days, that is actually filled. And we find ourselves, in connection with our place in the world.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more healing than that.
The essence of what I did was trust. That was at the fundamental essence. And I trusted you in that moment. I trusted everything that was going on. And I was like, fine, I fucking surrender because I'm at a low point. And I was at a real low that morning. And after the breath work the day before. And so that was the essence. I just said, okay, fine. And I was looking back at my notes that I took that day. And, one of the things that you said that resonated with me that I literally just latched onto and carried it out there with me was ask passionately and listen quietly. And that is not what we do. That's the whole back to filling it up and figuring it out and mind centric. Yeah. Right. So
exactly.
Yeah, the essence is trust. And I think, you are pushing people to trust their own instincts, nature, right? Their soul.
Absolutely. That's the journey. I mean, And listen, it's the scariest thing. It's still scary for me. I mean, I do this professionally and I practice this every year, and it's still hard for me. That's the nature of what it is to be a human being. So there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with us for feeling that sense of resistance or that hesitation to want to trust. And yet I think deep down we all recognize, consciously or not, right, Amy, that that's the journey we all ultimately are on. I mean, who really has control of this life? Who really has it all figured out?
No one. And if they say they
I
do,
don't think anybody does.
look out.
Yeah, they're liars if they say they do, right?
Absolutely.
Forget it.
Well,
Forget it. Yeah.
I don't know if that concerns me or makes me feel better if you still get scared on them, because I was thinking maybe it gets easier. And I'm glad you touched on that, because what I did was 5 hours. But like, what's the vision quests that you do? How long are those?
Well, a traditional vision quest, a full vision quest would be 96 hours. That'd be 4 full days.
Okay.
4 days, 4 nights.
96. I could do that, I think. I think I could do that.
It's definitely a next level. And there's all kinds of gradations on the way there. Traditionally, that's a practice that people worldwide, across cultures, throughout time, have practiced. A lot of people really associate it with Native American culture, and understandably so. But we have examples of that from around the world. I mean, Muhammad in his cave, Buddha being enlightened under the tree. He wasn't on a meditation cushion. He was in an ashram. He was under a tree. Christ, 40 days in the desert. There's all these examples, right? And again, it's very much a part of who we are as human beings. It's not an Indian thing or a Native American thing. It's a human thing. And is that a big bite to take? Well, yeah, but look at the benefits. I mean, what does it mean? I mean, I'm thinking of our listeners right now. Like, what does it mean to know in your bones that you know why you're here on this earth, that you are empowered, that you not about safety and security and comfort and money, but about your deepest essence, that you have a deep connection to that. And you're of real service to others, really helping the world, that when you die, you can look back and say, I'm satisfied. I made a difference. I left this world better than I found it. I mean, I'm semi-obsessed with that question, like, how will I feel on my deathbed? And it's a great one. I love asking clients and people I work with, and just people in general, is, what does this all mean? I mean, none of this physical reality are we going to be able to take with us, right? I think all we're going to be able to take with us is the impact that we left behind. So if I need to do 4 days on the land or 5 hours or whatever it is, or if I have to face my fears, isn't that worth it? I say yes.
Yes. Would you say that's like, I was curious as you were talking to, like, thinking about your spirituality and how you define that. And maybe that's how, a little bit, would you say, like, thinking of your deathbed and how you're going to feel?
Absolutely. I mean, defining spirituality, that's almost an impossible task, right? But I mean, how do a lot of people, I don't know what the Oxford Dictionary would say, but for me, it's about my deeper connection to all of life. It's about why I'm here, my purpose, my vision in this life. And it's about me being connected with my deepest essence of who I am, and really expressing that in each moment, right? This is an interesting conversation around purpose. My business is called Purpose Mountain, one of my businesses. And a lot of times people associate that in a very masculine oriented way, in terms of what is my job or what am I doing in the world? And that's great. I mean, it's important. Like, God, you're an amazing podcast host and you're lifting other people's voices. Beautiful. I'm helping others to connect with nature, and so awesome. But there's something more to life than what we're doing, and that's who we're being.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the slowing down. And how am I showing up day in and day out? Who am I being in the checkout aisle in the grocery store? How am I showing up with my family? How am I showing up just in every waking moment? And I believe that's as important as anything when it comes to our purpose and why we're here.
That is what it's all about. Oh, 100%. And the trick is, like, not thinking in those bigger pictures, like, oh, I have to execute this business model or whatever it is in order to live my purpose. And there's just so much doubt that creeps in that we position as realism, being realistic, you know? And I feel like something about this nature, the wander and the connection to nature and getting in touch with your wild nature sort of pushes that doubt away. What is it that, how does that happen? How does that work?
Well, that's a great question, Amy. I mean, when we think about doubts and fears and resistance, again, very natural.
Resistance, yeah.
Yeah, like if someone comes to me and they're like, yeah, Tim, help me discover my purpose, I look for the presence of doubt, resistance, and fear. I actually want to see that, not because I'm, wanting them to have a difficult time, but because
they're the indicators, right? Or
it's an indicator of authenticity. If a person is really on that journey and they're actually making forward progress, our purpose is, by definition, means change, right? One of my teachers used to say, purpose is, and our soul, our vision is terrifying and irresistible all at the same time. It's meant to grow you. And of course, it's safer to just sit back on the couch and do what I've been doing all this time. But that's not what's going to bring me fully alive. That's not what's going to bring me into my gifts and my real service of the world. So back to your question, when we connect with nature, we're connecting with our hearts. We're connecting with our inner nature. And what we have to realize is that the realm of doubts, fear, and resistance, that's all in the ego. That's the ego clinging desperately to its hold on our identity and not wanting to let go. So when we actually connect with our soul that is different from the ego, we find ourselves relaxed. We find ourselves exhaling. We find ourselves feeling connected. And it's just fully outside the realm of the ego. So doubt, fear, and resistance, the soul doesn't know anything about that. It's an entirely different realm. And so we have these moments of identifying with our soul and feeling that interconnected nature and feeling empowered and feeling invigorated. And where it's like, oh my God, doubt, fear, what is that? I don't even remember. That's not even in my consciousness. And then of course we come back and we're back in our everyday consciousness and we deal with that, and back and forth it goes. And so if we don't have practices to reconnect us to something timeless, something enduring, then the doubt will get the best of us.
Ooh.
So yeah, as much as anyone else, I need these practices to stay, active in my purpose too.
Well, you just gave me a perfect segue, because I want to know, like, what are just some simple practices that you can put in your daily life? Because I feel like I've not got those in my practice, my daily practice. And I meditate. I'm a big proponent of like easy, efficient, simple practices that we can really enact in our own lives.
Yeah.
So what do you say? Just get outside every day? I try, but I don't always succeed. And then I beat myself up a little bit about it.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's like anything. And I'm so happy that meditation has taken such a strong root in our modern culture. It's a beautiful thing, but it doesn't end there. I think that's a starting point. A simple practice is what I call the Sid Spot. So getting out in nature, maybe even just once a week, maybe a few times a week. Every day is great. I know there's some people living in the city it's going to be different for, but even if you are in the city, maybe it's just opening up your window and watching the pigeons if you're on the 15th story, or maybe it's one of my teachers used to say this, finding the wilderness in a blade of grass, peeking out of in between the cracks of the sidewalk, or going to a local park, but slowing down.
Ooh, there's so much beauty in that.
It's about this sense of being, not so much doing. And that's medicine for our soul. We are so addicted to the doing cycle over and over and over, and the taskmaster and the task list that's never ending. And me as much as anyone else, but slowing down, connecting, quieting the mind, being present in our five senses. That's an actually deeper meditation than just sitting on the cushion or on your floor or whatever it is and just going full quiet mind. And frankly, it helps. And there's a lot of people, especially folks who struggle with kind of classical meditation. When I encourage people just to, take that, make it a living meditation in nature where you're present in the senses, people find, and I'm one of these people, find that it's way more easier to actually achieve the quiet mind when I'm present in my senses.
Yeah.
And that's, it's amazing what that does. You do that for even a week, but I mean, even one time, benefits are huge, but do it for a month. And I mean, my God, there's been all kinds of studies about good for our physical health, good for our mental health, good for our emotional well-being, of course, activates our spiritual connection. So it's, yeah. But that's a real simple one that anyone can do.
Yeah, you made me think about that because I've been kind of hooked on noticing lately. And I think there's a lot of presence when you're noticing. And just driving to work, the last like 2 times that I've driven to work, I've noticed this huge palm tree that's at the corner of like Cesar Chavez and Congress. And I'm like, okay, I've driven this a zillion times and never noticed this beautiful giant palm tree. So I noticed it again today, and I took like in the beauty of it. And I think that there's just moments to connect with the beauty of nature all around us. And if we are willing to notice it and be present enough to notice it. So I think even if you're in the city, there are opportunities for that. I love that you said that. I loved that beauty.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I really believe is that nature is always teaching us so long as we are paying attention. And that's what I hear you speaking to. Like, you made the conscious choice to not be locked in your head and your thoughts and your mind and all of that, but to bring your awareness out on the landscape. And there is so much happening out there. Again, whether it's the city or the deep wilderness. I mean, I'm up here in North Idaho, surrounded by looking out at a beautiful lake and mountains and trees. But regardless of where we're at in the world, it is all nature, and everything is always happening. The world is alive. It's not static. It's always changing, right? You can never look at the same river twice. There's always something to notice. And when we do that, it draws us out of ourselves and brings us this sense of, God, the world is so much bigger. I mean, how many times have I heard people say a comment, after an experience, of connecting deeply with nature that, my problem seems so much smaller because I've realized how big the world is. And I'm just a part of that, not in a disempowering way, but really in an empowering way, that we are part of something greater. And when we feel that, it's reassuring and it helps us put our lives and our issues in perspective.
You like answered a question that was in my head as you were doing it. Cause I know, well done. Way to read my mind. But I was like, just thinking about, the going outward, and people are like, no, I need to go inward. That's what I'm here for. But you just already nailed it. Like, you go outward to get inward. And I was just curious, like how that functioned, but putting it like that, where it makes us realize that we are connected and our problems are not as big as we make them out to be. If we go inward too much, there's a danger of making these things seem like they are all encompassing. Right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, these days, of course, in the circles of people who are into the transformational journey, which, of course, you very much are, Amy, and I am too, there's a common term that we use, right? Inner work.
Inner work. Oh my God, I had a dream. I had a dream the other night about inner work. I dreamed that I went to see this great band and I was so excited about them, and they were called Inner Work. I just laughed so hard when I woke up. I was like, obviously I'm doing some inner work. Yes.
And sometimes I like to think about it the opposite. Well, what if it was outer work? And I mean that in the deepest sense. Like, what if our inner journey actually was reflected by our outer journey? And that's how I experience that it works, that when we make this journey outside of ourselves, nature, and you experienced this, right? This idea that nature is a mirror, that the outer world, especially the natural world, the wild world can reflect our inner process and show it back to us, mirror it back to us, especially with some skilled guiding and skilled mentoring. And through that, we can really see ourselves clearly, the truth of who we are, our weaknesses, our strengths, and ultimately our vision and our reason for being.
That's kind of a mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's a mind bender.
Sense. Yes, it is. Like, it's a little hard to make sense of, but it does make sense if I don't think about it too much.
Right. Yeah. And again, some of this journey, I think we just have to acknowledge. I mean, it is outside the realm of the human mind. the human mind is great, but look, we've had this massive obsession with it. And look at where it's taken us. Look at the issues we have. I mean, who needs to question this? I mean, look at the issues we have in our world. Look at climate change. Look at the political insanity we're dealing with. Look at the fires in California. I mean, there's big issues. And when we look at the modern experience that's been the dominant mindset, obsession with the mind and with physical reality, it's only taken us so far, and when we there was an interview I watched not too long ago, and an individual was sitting with a native elder and asked them, they said, what is it that the big mistake that we've made, why is it we're having all these struggles? What is the real answer to all of this? And the elder said, well, so long as mankind has divorced itself from spirit and nature, humankind will suffer. And we have to make that reconnection. And sometimes it doesn't make sense to the mind. And that's, I don't know how to break that to people, but it's the world is bigger than what the mind can comprehend. It just is. And in those big moments, I think of synchronicity, right? Like, a lot of people can relate to this, thinking of a friend, and then all of a sudden the phone rings. Oh my God, it's them.
Yeah.
Was that random? Did that really just happen? Well, yes. And you can actually follow those synchronicities and have a life filled with synchronicities, big and small, to a point where your life is one great synchronicity. And, can the mind understand that? Well, we could look at like Rupert Sheldrake's morphic resonance and all these kind of wild, edgy philosophies and theories that try and explain that. But in the end, it may be more than the human mind can comprehend. And would that be such a bad thing? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. We're just conditioned to label and to define and to make sense of something. You hear a sound, you immediately put a name to it, or that's a X. Oh, is that a drum? Is that and in your meditation, can you just allow that to flow and then allow even words to flow sometimes and not struggle so much to make sense of them or to make sense of the nature. And that's, again, ask passionately and listen quietly. Just shut up and just be in it and just sit there. And then astonishingly, I found, I'm searching for doing it right all the time. And there is no right, or whatever you're going to discover. It's different for everyone. Absolutely. We have a few minutes left. And one of the things was what was one of the biggest things you learned about yourself doing these vision quests and all the work that you've done in nature?
Well, early on, I think I spoke to that, Amy, was that I had tremendous value and worth as a human being.
You did mention that, yes.
Honestly, I think I work with a lot of people one-on-one and do some really deep work, emotional healing and visionary development. And at the heart of it, I've never worked with a person. I think on some level, we all have this deep fear that we're not worthy of love, or that we're not worthy, period. And one of the greatest gifts I experienced from nature and through these old practices is a deep knowing in my bones that I am worthy. And that is priceless. I mean, how many people spend a lifetime fighting against that? And their lives are one giant, battle against the deep feelings of unworthiness. That's an epidemic, I think, in our world today. And then, that's half of it. That's like the healing side, right? And then the other half is that I am here for a reason. I have real gifts. I have something important to share that the world needs. That the world is not complete and the world is not fully expressed unless I am complete and I am fully expressed. And that doesn't mean I'm more special than anybody else. We all have that, but that I count, I matter, and this is why I'm here. And my gosh, there's a lot of subtleties, I could go on and on about, but at the core of it, I think it's those two things. I'm worthy and I have gifts to share. And that the world needs. And that's, if everybody in the world could get that, my God, we'd have a different world.
We would have a much different world. And that's what I'm trying to put out and you're trying to put out. I could not have said that better. And I 100% agree. And I mean, it bums me out a little bit sometimes when I think that, shit, I'm 48 and it took me this long to realize that, it took me till 2020 really to know my value, know my worth, and know that I do have gifts to share that matter. And everybody does. And but at least I made it, So, but it is an ongoing practice to stay connected to that realization, those realizations, and then to allow, or to model it so other people realize it as well. So, I feel that very deeply. And I think as a woman too, our worth can get tied up in so many other things. And so, that just resonates with me to keep putting that out there in the world. If we can, what a better world it will be when we all realize that. I'm just going to go ahead and say that it'll happen.
Love it. That's right.
Why not?
Yes.
I want to live in that world.
Hold that vision.
Hold that vision. Absolutely. We're getting close to time. So is there anything else that we need to touch on and get into before you go, or anything that you feel called to share even before we go? Anything that I might have missed?
Well, thank you. Yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking about our listeners right now. And, I think the one thing I would really maybe just highlight, we kind of did speak to this earlier, but just to recap, is just, even if it is 5 minutes, right, in a local park, what would it be like to really just stop, to really pause the busyness, slow the heck down, take a deep breath or 2 or 3, and really ask, am I on track with why I'm here in this life? Do I have a deep sense of peace with who I am? Is there something unhealed in my life that needs addressing? Am I expressing my purpose at the highest level possible? And if not, my message would be, it is entirely possible for you to heal yourself. It is entirely possible for you to connect with your purpose. And all it takes is making that choice deeply and meaning it and holding that intention. And there's me, there's you, there's all kinds of folks who are mentors and coaches and programs and friends,
Yeah.
But that is entirely accessible to everyone. But we've got to slow down, and we've got to slow that busy mind. We've got to stop all scrolling Facebook and all the myriad of distractions. The
scrolling, man.
Oh my God, Yeah, but I think that's it.
I think that is so beautiful. I know it is. And I love that you're saying it is accessible, because so many times we can get scared that, I've got to do this and this and this before I can, or I've got to have these ducks in a row. What all your worries and all the shit going on is still going to be there. It's not, you don't have to hold onto it and keep thinking it. It'll still be there. You can set it down for a moment, connect in nature, even 5 minutes. That makes a difference. 5 minutes of anything makes a difference for me, at least. And usually 5 minutes, I've done the 5 minute rule so many times, with practicing guitar or whatever it is. And then of course you end up spending much more than 5 minutes many times. So if we can just do that, set your phone timer for 5 minutes, I think that's a great recommendation. Yeah. And I just want to thank you so much for taking time to have a conversation with me today. I was so moved by your work and everything that you said. And I'm just extremely grateful. So thank you for saying yes to this and sharing all your wisdom.
Well, you're so welcome, grateful. Amy. And it's a real honor to be here. Thank you for this opportunity, and great to reconnect with you here.
Yes. And it's so great. And I encourage everyone to find you at purposemountain.com, spelled just like it sounds, or twineagles.org. So thank you again, Tim.
You betcha.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you. Love you so much. Oh my gosh. Huge thanks to Tim Corcoran for being here today. Again, find him at purposemountain.com, twineagles.org. He offers so much to the world. And if you feel called for a vision quest, seek that shit out. Do it. I'm here to tell you, I think I could do it. And I know you look at me and you're like, how are you going to do that, Amy? Like, we see the makeup on your face, or, well, you can hear it in my voice, I'm sure. I'm not exactly low maintenance all the time. So I really think I could. And I hope that opportunity presents itself to me, because I would definitely take it. So anyway, thank you again to Tim. So how can we implement that? Just a quick reminder that he said, if you're in a high rise, go outside on your balcony, open a window, look at the birds, the pigeons, feel the wind. It's all right there. One of the things he said the first time that I encountered him, he did talk about everything is nature. And it is. Like, we can remember that and connect to all the bounty that nature has provided us. And so if you feel a little landlocked or something, it's okay. Find the blade of grass, find the little bit, go to the park. Give yourself 5 minutes. Do it for 5 minutes. I'm such a proponent of 5 minutes. Meditate for 5 minutes. Be in nature for 5 minutes. Notice for 5 minutes. Sit and notice for 5 minutes. Even if I'm on a walk, sometimes I'll look around and be like, how many things can I notice that I've never noticed? And I'll just like spend a couple minutes and I'm like, okay, I've never noticed that house and I've walked down this road like 100 times or more. And, it's funny how many times we get wrapped up in our head and can just simply not notice things, just go right by us. So can you notice? Can you spend 5 minutes? That's what I encourage you to do today. And I'm super stoked that I'm making these meditations between episodes now, where they're like little mini episodes. So excited about that. So I'm going to have one specifically targeted this week for nature, for getting out in nature. And short. It's short. All you have to do is pull it up, download it. Boom. You're ready to go. You got a meditation at your fingertips. So I'm really stoked. And if there's ever anything you want to share with me, please do. Email me and let me know. You can reach me anytime at amy@amyedwards.com. Send me an email. Let me know something you want to meditate on. Let me know something you want to talk about. Let me know anything that's impacted you. I want to know. Please, please tell me, because I'm hoping to even expand this into a mini episode where we talk about listener emails, talk about transformation stories, anything like that. I want to hear. If nature has affected you and really transformed your life, tell me, please. Want to know. Even just little practices that you put in that I need to know about. I'm dying to know. I'm a small practice junkie. So tell me. And remember that I've got free resources, meditations, all that kind of good stuff on my website at amyedwards.com. And you can sign up for my newsletter there too, where you get stuff fed straight to your inbox. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review to this show. It really does matter. And I'm so, so grateful and appreciative. So thank you in advance. Thank you if you've already done it. And remember that Hot Pie Media has tons and tons of great content. We have so many good shows that are all out now. I believe they're all out now. So one that I'm going to highlight today is Lee Ackerley and the Music Fringe. If you need a dose of like hilarity and music and just some music genres that you never even possibly knew existed, he's got them for you and he's hilarious. So check that out when you can, the Music Fringe. Remember, subscribe, rate, review. Thank you so much for being here. You can find me on the socials at Real Amy Edwards too. So here's wishing you peace, love, light, health, wealth, happiness, all that abundance and more. It's all within you, and connect to nature this week. I love you so much. Thank you for being here. Peace, love. Till next time.
Thanks for listening. You can find more episodes and all other Hot Pie Media originals baked fresh daily at our home on the web at hotpiemedia.com, the Hot Pie Media YouTube channel, or wherever you listen to podcasts.